Hello. It's been a rough day again getting prepared for tonight, but I'm here and I wanted to thank you for attending our session tonight. Thank you for joining Spiritual Impulse. My name is Edith, and what we do here is to empower and support women, children, and men in reframing challenges as opportunities rather than barriers for spiritual growth and unfoldment. So, thank you for joining me tonight. We will be discussing four important points about disengaged teens. Remember, we brought up the topic a couple of weeks ago, and so we will be rediscussing and going into more detail about that tonight. The points that we will be discussing are four, and the first would be how can we best protect and prepare our kids? What is the missing key to learning? Why do kids disengage? And lastly, the solution, how listening can reignite engagement. So, as always, since my channel is rooted in spiritual concepts and unfoldment and growth, I'd like to start out with a biblical passage in Proverbs 1, verses 5, which says, let the wise listen and add to their learning. And that is what's going to be guiding us tonight. So I have a question for you, and that is, what if listening, not fixing, lecturing, or pushing was the key to unlocking your child's full potential? How can we best protect and prepare our kids? Do you have one of those at your house, or are your mom dealing with that, or are your grandma like I am dealing with a child who may appear to be disengaged? Let's talk about it. I should be putting something in the chat for you, and let me see if I can find it. The question that I have for you is, let me put this in here. Okay, I just put it in. What's one thing you wish your child would share more openly with you? And does your child share anything at all with you when they come home, or are they, a little close and not sharing anything except, how did your day go today, sweetie? And they say, fine. And that's all that you have. But we're going to be learning a few techniques tonight to, to deal with that. So don't fear, have faith. So, how can we best protect and prepare our children? Now, according to some educational experts, my background is in education, and that's really the love of my life is education. I was an educational resource person and consultant for many, many, many years with the state and the city. And so this is just an extension of that. So, according to educational experts of how we prepare our kids, and as well as our artificial intelligence, both of their responses is very blank. Both of them say that we make them good at learning. And when I saw that, and I said, I really agree with that. We have to make them good at learning, but how can we do that? What do they mean when they say that? So the only thing that can insulate them from rapid change and give them the confidence to move forward is the ability to learn and adapt. And that is critical now for our young people. Learning and adapting is important because it helps kids build confidence, resilience, and you know how important problem solving skills are. So when children feel heard and supported, they are more willing to take risk, make mistakes, and try again. instead of shutting down or disengaging. By listening to their struggles and experiences, we help them develop the flexibility to adapt to challenges, stay motivated, and keep learning, even when things get tough. A quote from a book that I'm reading says that resilient learners are not strong, they are flexible. And let's be really clear, no child wants to be checked out. In case you're interested in the book that I'm reading, this is it. It's called The Disengaged Teen. And I have been reading it and I've been very interested in it because it was showcased on CBS, the morning show. And that's one of my favorite shows, the CBS morning show with the fabulous trio of Gail, Tony, and Nate. And so I've been learning it and I have been really engaged in reading it. Most of the time when I get a new book, I'm engaged for a few minutes, a few chapters, and I put it down and never return to it. But this one, I think I'm going to stay connected to it. So let's talk about now we said that the learners, the educational experts, and also Al says that we have to prepare out and teach our children how to learn. So let's talk about the second point that I would like to make tonight. And that is, what is the missing key to learning? And I know this extremely well because I was an instructor in the classroom for many years. And I do know that talking to students, lecturing at students, it doesn't work for students. They have to feel a sense of engagement, something that will engage them. And so let's talk a little bit about engagement, what it is and what it isn't. Engagement is not just about willpower and grit. It is the spark that makes learning exciting and meaningful. And you know what it feels like and what it looks like when a child is excited and curious about learning. They can't stop asking you why this and why that. You take them into a toy store and they run all over, they're just so excited. So it's more than just paying. It's engagement is a spark that makes learning exciting and meaningful. It's more than just paying attention. It's when a child is curious, motivated, and actively involved in what they are learning. And you know how it is if you're a parent or a grandparent. You know when a child is curious and active. You stop at the park or you stop at the playground and they run and get out of the car and they're engaged. You can always stop them because they're naturally curious. So engagement works because it's based on how the brain learns best through emotion, connection, and curiosity. And you know how curious children can be. I just love working with children and teens too. And not only children, but when children get older and become little adults, teenagers, from 11, 12, 13, and 14, they are still curious and can be engaged effectively if you know how to engage them. Who wants to be in a classroom or anywhere with children who are disengaged? And it's not fun for them because the message to you, if you have disengaged kids, is that it's boring or it's not interesting or something's going on and something needs to be changed. And it's not them, it's what you're presenting and how you're presenting it. So when kids are engaged, they feel energized, not exhausted. They become proactive learners. They begin to ask questions and advocate for their needs. They gain confidence, resilience, and problem solving skills, which is something that is needed in today's workplace and society. Because even if you, for some reason, cannot continue your education beyond high school or even don't, have to get a GED because for some reason you couldn't finish. With the young ladies, sometimes it's pregnancy. With the young men, sometimes it's being locked up in jail and getting in trouble. So, that happens to a lot of our young people. And but it doesn't have to be a barrier. You can still continue your education and get that. But even if you don't, having problem solving skills probably is so important for you to learn how to do. And you can learn how to do that, because I think that's innate for children to do, because they're just, there's this energy of intelligence and ideas and wonder, and they're so quick, and they're just beautiful to be around, and they're so innocent, most of them. And it's just a joy working with kids. There really is. So, again, when kids are engaged, they feel energized, they become proactive learners. They ask questions. And you know how kids can ask questions. Sometimes you get on your nerves a little bit because they're asking too many questions. But they're asking questions because they're curious. And also, they gain confidence by asking the questions. They're resilient, and it adds to their problem solving skills. I know a lot about this because I've always been a curious child, and I'm still curious as an adult. And anybody that really knows me will know that I'll start, asking a series of questions. And it's nothing that, it's not a to do list. It's just something that comes to me naturally to ask, and this is my way of getting to know them. And I love having conversations, and engagement is the key. And how do you engage with someone? Well, you ask about them. You want to know about them. Where did you go and get educated? What did you learn at your last job? And what was the most important point that you took away from that job that helped to build on your skills? Because most people follow a path in their lives, from having their first job to their last job, and it's a series of skills that are being built. And as you build additional skills, you become stronger, and you become more resilient. You're able to problem solve anything that comes your way, and that's a real important skill for anyone to have, especially if you're going to have a family, if you're going to be raising children, if you're going to be having a job, because your ability to think may be more important than a college education in some respect. Because if you don't have common sense, and if you don't know how to resolve a problem, on your job, then, someone may not think that you are as valuable as someone who could. And sometimes they call these people, oh, she or he thinks on their feet, and that they can resolve something quickly just by, looking at it and everything. So it's an important skill to learn. And this is what engagement will help to promote in children and teens and adults, really. So let's talk about why kids disengage. And you may have one of those kids at your house, if you're our parent. And also, if you're a grandma or grandfather, you may have a child that's disengaged, and you're wondering, they were so curious. When you take children to, the kindergarten and nursing school, they're so engaged, and they want to go. They can't wait to get out of the car. And sometimes they have so much to tell you when they get home. They're just so excited, so curious. It's just little balls of energy. And it's so good to see that. But as you know, especially if you're a parent, I know I'm an educator, sometimes you begin to see the loss of that curiosity in a child and their willingness to learn because of whatever is happening with that child. And it could be at home, it could be they're being bullied, it could be a number of reasons. And we're going to, talk about some of those things now because that can act as a barrier to children's growth and unfoldment in education and prevent them from experiencing a lot of opportunities that would automatically come their way. So, some common reasons for disengagements: it may be too easy or too hard for them. When you're assigned something for a child, and I'm sure many of you play these games. I know I play word with friends all the time because I love it. I'm a puzzle person and I find it entertaining, and I also find it relaxing. So I don't do it all the time, but I do it when I want to relax, or I just want to take some time off to just sit still and just disengage from everything and just play. I love playing. And so I do play a lot of puzzles. They relax and they're really good. They keep your mind active, and it's a nice way to pass the time, as long as that's when to put it aside and everything. But anyway, some of the common reasons for disengagement that I found and also researched are: it's too easy or it's too hard. When it's too hard, you get discouraged. I don't want to do this. I've done this myself by trying to work puzzles. You have these crossword puzzles and they get a little too hard. You say, oh, I don't think so. But if you make it easy, when a person begins, just give them very easy things to do so that they can start creating a habit of being successful. And then they're encouraged to continue. And then from there, you can just elevate the difficulty of the challenge for them. But at first, make it very easy, so that they can be easily engaged and want to participate. No one wants to fail at anything, especially right away. So you want to make it easy for them so that they can engage and they can feel, like they are motivated to move forward. And also, you don't want to make the task too difficult for them, because that can just shut them down right away. So you have to walk a fine line. And sometimes you can do this by questioning. You can just observe a child to find out, what their pleasures are, what they like to do, and give them situations and problems and things to do associated with that. The second reason why kids disengage are mental health struggles, and this is serious. I've had to deal with this in my family quite a bit with quite a few siblings, and this is real. The way that they struggle mentally is real. Sometimes it's a family member that has been in the service and has experienced some trauma, and have been released, and they're suffering from all kinds of things based on that unresolved, healed trauma. And so, they bring that back to the family. And of course, you have to learn how to deal with it. But that's a second reason why some kids may um, disengage. The third is called neural divergence, and that is just different learning styles. Now, we know that people learn differently. They learn how to do things differently. They learn how to think differently. They learn how to function differently. And it's not the status quo where, most educational institutes recognize that this is not the status quo. This person, can learn, but they have to learn in different ways and methods. And this can be another stumbling block for a lot of our students. Sometimes this teacher, especially if they experience, they may recognize it right away. So it's okay that they have different ways of learning. That's just the way that they are made, and so you don't you know, not recognize it, or you don't put the student down because of it. You assign things that they are able to do and willing to do, and recognize that they may do things a little bit differently, but just not to be judgmental about it, because you don't want to discourage a child. And because all of us are born into this realm to be useful. We all have a gift, and we want each child to present its gift to the world, because that's the only way the world will be complete, is due to their gift. And we want them to express it. Wouldn't you want every child to express their gift? We don't want to be the reason that that gift is not expressed because of our behavior towards that child. If they're different, then just accept it, love this child, and know that this child is an image likeness of God, like we all are. And we're here for a reason. We're here to fulfill a purpose. And that child has a purpose, just like I have a purpose. We all have a purpose. So we want to encourage our children and our teens to discover what it is that they can do better than anyone else in the world. And by discovering that, they will enjoy the passion of doing it because they love to do it. So that's what we want for our kids. We want to have them engaged and motivated and curious, because they're interested in learning. They're excited. So that's the third reason, the different learning styles, and they call it neurodivergence. Just another term for different learning styles, the way people learn differently and function differently. The next reason, and I'm sure many of you have experienced this with your grandchildren, your children, your neighbor's children, is bullying or discrimination. This is an awful, awful way to reflect and to perceive children. I believe, that this is a way to really murder a child's gift. It is a way to not nurture it, to um, I call it murder. That's a terrible term to use. But in essence, you don't want to damper a child's curiosity. You want to, enliven it. And you enliven it by loving the child and encouraging that child. You don't want to have a child who is disengaged in the classroom, because that speaks more to you than it does to them. So that's the fourth reason that a child may be disengaging in the classroom. And another reason is the misalignment of values that's being taught in the classroom, not feeling connected to what they're learning. What does this have to do with me? And why is it important for me to do this? I remember when I was teaching at community college right on Liberty Heights in Baltimore. And one of the math professors came around, and they were doing a seminar or some kind of activity to encourage the students to learn math. And I asked her, I said, what would you say to me if I had a child in the classroom that asked me, why am I learning algebra? Why am I learning that? And she couldn't answer it. She was the math teacher. I wasn't, because I wanted to know too. I wanted to know why they were teaching this, because I don't think I've ever used algebra. I may have used the concept and just didn't know that I was using it, because I'm not really a math person. I'm a critical thinker, but math is something that because, my family moved around a lot. My father was a missionary at large, and he would go around creating churches. And so we would have to move every time, the Senate, which is, his employer, asked him to create another congregation. And so my math skills were suffering a lot. And, I was asking, well, why would, you teach algebra if you really don't know why it will be useful for someone, in their life? And so I was just taken back by that. But I think she thought about it because they did a workshop on it, and I found it very valuable. That's the last point that I would like to make, is misalignment of values. And also, I don't want to put this on the parents or the family, but sometimes children are being abused at home, or they're being abused by someone, and that is an indicator as well that may start the child to disengage in school. Yeah, if you're a parent or if you're a teacher, you can walk into a classroom, and if you are the head of the classroom, you can tell if children are disengaged. You can tell. Sometimes they begin to act out. They have this look like, I'm not interested in this. Why are you teaching this? Or they may be getting in trouble. They may speak out of turn. They must just get very restless in the chair and start, doing like this. Because I know I do that. If I'm disinterested in something, I want you to move on. Why are we talking about this? I can get very disinterested very fast. And I am a mature, seasoned educator, but I still have a child within me, and I'm very curious, and I don't like anything that's boring, to be honest with you. I don't like to listen to anything that's boring. And so for me, it's all about curiosity, and it has to be something that I enjoy doing. And children and kids are the same way. I mean, they all can be engaged. You just have to find that spark that you will allow them to be engaged. But the key takeaway is, when children struggle with these challenges, the ones that I mentioned, and some I haven't mentioned, I'm sure you can add to that list, they use the tools that they have. And most kids know how to disengage. And of course, I'm sure you understand what that is if you're a parent or grandparent. When the kids don't care. I'm not doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this. They're getting very disgusted. So they know how to disengage because, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this. And you can tell when they're disengaged. They're just not interested. And so if they have a phone, they may be getting on the phone. If you allow phones in the classroom, that's being cut out. So those are the reasons and the takeaways. And the takeaway is that students, once they are disengaged, it's because of those reasons that I've just mentioned. And it could be some other reasons, but those are the main ones. Now, do you know what teens want most from their parents? Isn't advice? Did you know that? I was reading this book, and the disengaged, the disengaged teen, and these two wonderful women who did all the research, and they said that they did a lot of questions for teens, young people, all different races and cultures. And they asked them about their parents. And what they learned was that teens want most from their parents, not their advice, but to be listened to. And take that away if you don't take anything else away tonight. Kids want to be listened to, not advised. So that brings us to our last point tonight, and that is the solution: how listening can reignite engagement. And so let's talk about what listening creates. And but before we talk about that, I would like to bring up. Well, we can go on with talking about what it creates, and then I'll come back and tell you, my experience about this and what led me to this. Listening creates safety. It creates safety. When a kid feels heard, they open up about their struggles. When they really feel heard, I mean, when you can just relax and listen for the child, and ask the child, questions. And it's not an interrogation, it's just a curiosity. And if you approach it in a respectful way, that child will open up to you. I remember when recently, last year in 24, I wasn't working, so I was being supported and helped by this organization called Rebuilding Baltimore or America. And they were responsible for making the repairs in my home that would help me to continue to live in my home safely. And so they had quite a few repairs to do in my home, and about 15 of them showed up at one time, and they were going to do them all at one time, which they did, and I was very happy for them. But before they started the process, it was all adults except one. And I noticed him because I'm a former educator. I'm an educator. And so he looked between the ages of 12 and 14 to me. So I asked him, because we went in a circle and to introduce ourselves, and he introduced himself and he said, "I'm here with my dad." And so I went back with him after everyone had introduced themselves, and I asked him a couple of questions. And I said to him, I said, "Also, you're here helping your dad today. Are you in school?" And he said, "Yes." And um, I said, "So, you know, is it important for you to be here today?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I'd rather be here than to be in school." That's what he said. And I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "So tell me more about that." I said, "So what is it about school that's less important than what you're doing now?" And he said, "Well, I like being active." And he's a young man, so he likes to be engaged, which I can understand that. If you've ever taught young men in the classroom, they don't like to sit down and be still and quiet. They like to be active. And so he also alluded to the fact that he felt school was a prison. A prison, can you imagine? And also, the authors of this book, the disengaged teen, they also discover that they talk to thousands and thousands of children, all different cultures, all different races, all different ages. And most of them felt the same way about school being a prison. And that broke my heart, because I haven't been in education in the school system for a long time. I've been retired since 2010, although I've continued working, not in the school system, but I've continued working. And so that really shocked me, that kids think school is a prison. Can you imagine? I said, my goodness, we parents, school teachers, administrators, we need to turn that around I mean, no wonder children are not learning, and they're disengaged. But anyway, listening builds self awareness instead of reacting emotionally. Kids learn to recognize their feelings and the needs. Listening falters intrinsic motivation. When kids feel understood, they become more engaged and they have something within them that motivates them. It's not an external motivation at all. Like, I want you to do well in school. That's external. No, the child is motivated by something that comes from within. And if parents pay attention to that at home, they probably know what that is. That's intrinsic motivation. It comes from within. So children learn to recognize their feelings and their needs. And listening falters intrinsic motivation. We just talked about that. When kids feel understood, they become more engaged. Intrinsic motivation is something that motivates them from within, something that they really love to do: painting, walking, gym, swimming. Parents can usually pick it up because generally, when children go anywhere in a toy store, particularly, they run to the things that they enjoy doing. So if you pay attention to that, you can learn a lot from what a child is attracted to. Um, Now, remember, so those the three things: listening creates safety, listening builds self awareness. Instead of reacting emotionally, kids learn to recognize their feelings and needs, and listening fosters intrinsic motivation. When kids feel understood, they become more engaged and proactive in learning, asking questions, seeking help, setting goals. They find meaning in that, and that's why they do it. So remember our quote from the book: resilient learners aren't strong, they are flexible. And listening helps children adapt rather than shut down when challenges arise. So that's what I have to present tonight. I would like to share an experience that led me to do this tonight. And it was a couple of weeks ago when I had a call from my granddaughter, and she was sharing with me that she felt sad and mad and anxious about school because during COVID, they put her in an online class. And rather than learning the assignment, it was a math assignment, she found herself playing games, so she missed out on the assignment. And then she started falling behind in math. And she was feeling a lack of self esteem about that. She wasn't really feeling good about that. She told me that she didn't feel good about that. And so we talked about it, and I asked her certain questions about it, and she was willing to answer them. And she revealed to me that that's what she was doing, and that's why she was falling behind, and that what led to the feelings of being sad and mad, because she was playing games rather than doing her math. So we talked about it, and I told her that I love playing games. I think games are wonderful. So I think it's wonderful that you love to play games. I said, however, but there's a time and place to play the games, and when you have a certain period set aside to do an assignment, then that's what you're expected to do, because those skills will benefit you for the rest of your life, especially math skills. I mean, can you imagine not knowing how to do math? You just set yourself up to be a victim. And everything. And so you don't want to be a victim. You want to have the skills that you need to promote yourself, to grow, to do the things that you need to do in life. To look at your bank account, to do whatever you need to do with adding and subtracting in there, and going grocery shopping, and putting together a list of what you want to buy and creating a budget so that you won't go out of that budget because you want to save up for something like a house or a car. So, those skills that they're teaching in high school, many of them will benefit children, in their lives now and also later on. I have another granddaughter who recently became employed, and I'm sure she had to do a lot of math because she was working in a restaurant. So after we had the conversation, old grandma over here wanted to fix things, let me get in there and fix things. I know how to, I know what to do, and then I noticed that after I had given my granddaughter a couple of assignments to help her change her mindset about how she felt about herself, and they were definitely aligned with what she enjoyed doing. She said she was an artist, and so I gave her some assignments to do that was aligned with art, and she did them. And it took her a couple of days, and afterwards we talked, and then I didn't hear from her again, and that bothered me, and I was wondering if I was being a little overbearing. But what I finally discovered was that all she needed to have was a listening ear, and that taught me a lot. Was just mostly what this child needed was for me to listen to her, and she was willing to do the assignments, which were assignments that had her to paint or draw how she felt about herself, an image of how she felt. And then the second one was, well, draw a picture of how you want to feel and how you feel when you're successful and things like that. And she did them both. And afterwards, I didn't hear from her anymore. I don't know whether she thought that, look, I'm tired of doing these assignments. You know how kids are. But when I reflected on it, what came to me was, really what she wanted me to do was to listen. So listening is an important factor in dealing with your kids at home, with the parents. And so now that we understand, that listening is how to engage, is the key to engagement. And so listening is the key. And so with our next session, we're going to be learning about the four modes of engagement. And you're going to find those modes very interesting because they reflect the different uh, unfoldment, different levels of where students are when they're in the classroom, so that you can understand them more fully and maybe help them to become more engaged. And so I'm speaking from experience here about engagement, because I'll tell you a quick story. I was in class one day, and we were in a circle, and I thought things were going fine and everything. But I had this one student who was visibly disengaged, and I asked her, and talked to me after class. She says, boring. It's boring, and that really touched my heart because I didn't want what I was doing to be boring. And so after the classes were over, I took the entire summer to revamp the curriculum that I was teaching. And I made it more active. I made it, using more tools like puzzles and projects for students to do. And the students really enjoyed it. It made a huge difference in who they were being in the classroom, and to be honest with you, in me, because I was more motivated now, because I knew that I was making a real difference with the students in this engagement, this key to learning, which was engagement. I made it fun for them, and they couldn't wait to get to the classroom. So these tools work. And let me see if I have something that you could do. Um, uh, you can apply this in your daily life, and it would only take a few minutes. Here are some practical ways to practice active listening if you're a parent or guardian. Put away all distractions, televisions, phones, play toys, whatever they are, and ask your teen, your child, open ended questions like, what was the best part of your day? Or what's something you struggled with today? You know your child, you know what question to ask them. And then this validates their feeling before giving advice. Instead of just saying, try harder. you know, I hear that math is tough right now. What's been the hardest part? And then the model of problem solving instead of fixing everything. What do you think could help? Ask them, what do you think could help? Instead of giving them advice. Well, you need school, and you're not going to be successful, if you don't have it. I know that they know the importance of school, so we're going to eliminate that discussion because we don't want to tear them down or judge them, because we probably have been in situations like that ourselves. So remember, put away all distractions when you want to have the conversation, and ask open-ended questions. And I think it's the best to ask open-ended questions when you're driving home, or you're having them help you in the kitchen, or some other project that both of you can be working on. So you want to validate their feelings before giving advice, instead of just try harder. Say, I hear that math is tough right now. What's been the hardest part for you? Something like that. And so to model the problem solving instead of fixing everything, like grandma wanted to fix it, and learning that all they needed was you to listen. And then once you listen, then they open up, and then they kind of direct you. So you may want to ask what you could do to help, and just listen to what they say. So that's all that I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to leave you with hoping that you will join me again next week. And, let's see what happens next week. We're going to be talking about 4 different modes of engagement. So I hope you'll join me. And remember, if you enjoyed this, please hit the notification button, and also please subscribe to my channel if it's been helpful. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest of the day. Until next week, bye.